Ready to go? Okay, looking back at Southern Illinois, solid win. Obviously, anytime you win in the Missouri Valley, it's a good road win. Offensively, I thought we failed to just cultivate enough explosive plays to reach our full potential on Saturday. Defensively on that side of the ball, I thought things were pretty impressive. Outside of a couple unforced controllable penalties, we had 11 TFLs and then 2 big takeaways, was just outstanding. Puts us at a good number, nationally in the turnover ratio. Our specialists highlighted the special teams. I thought they punted and kicked the ball very accurately, and, it was kind of one of those games where special teams didn't play a big role, but the kickers and punters did perform well. Obviously, our health coming out of Southern Illinois is a little concerning, but all those guys are working hard to get back, for the Dakota Marker game. I think the stage is set for what will be great competition this weekend, an unbelievable environment, and then obviously there's opportunity to advance to 2024 story and legacy. Our staff, is working hard right now at putting together the plans. They're very well coached, and I know a lot of coaches say that, but I'll give you some specifics so we're not just coach speak here. All right, they put their players in position, to be successful, and that's a mark of a good coaching staff. I think they're very creative with their counter punches. They're very creative within their systems in creating, just situations where, okay, it looks like that, but it's this. I think they do a great job out on the road recruiting. They've been consistent. I have a lot of respect for these guys. I know Jimmy well, and, it's one of those deals that's you'd like to like them a little bit more, but that's hard when it's a rivalry situation like this. And so, when you break them down, and I guess you look at them, I'll start on defense. When I got started in the week, I had no idea that they have 3 starting senior linebackers, 3 starting senior defensive linemen out of 4, 3 starting secondary players out of 4, so they have a lot of experience within what they do. Obviously, Adam Bach is the one that gets them lined up, communicates all the fronts and all the checks and the adjustments, and he obviously, is a good player. I mean, going back all the way to 2021. They're allowing 97 yards rushing per game right now, so that'll be a tall task for us. We obviously will want more production than that. They're giving up 200 yards passing per game, and they have 9 takeaways, which puts them at +4 in the turnover margin. Offenses are only scoring touchdowns, 36% of the time in the gold zone. 14 trips, they've had to defend, and they've only given up 5 touchdowns. South Dakota State's offense, I think it's just one of those things where it's hard to get past the efficiency and the proficiency that they play at when you're looking at guys like number 11, Mark Gronkowski, for his career, 64%, 8,700 yards passing, and 81 touchdown passes to 18 TDs. I think Chase Mason, their wildcat or their versatile type quarterback is dangerous. They do some unique things to keep you off balance with misdirection and then try to hit you with some direct runs with him. He's a talented player. Their future is bright at quarterback. Amir Johnson, 74 carries for, 480 yards on the year. He also has 15 receptions. Griffin Wilby was the newcomer of the year last year in the conference, 32 receptions this year and 407 yards receiving. And then the one thing I'll say about not skipping over the most important element, but, their tight end group, they've done a hell of a job at finding some length and some speed and then building it up and coaching and developing that spot. They play 4 or 5 guys. One of their guys that don't play much offense shows up on special teams covering kicks. And so that group, obviously with the way they're diverse in their formations, it kind of starts with the tight end group, and all the things that they can do, will present a challenge. Offensive line, 4 senior starters, and some of that's due to picking up a transfer here or there in the portal, but it's respectable. It's a big group. I think individually, they are what they are. They're good, but the fact that they've gained some experience now playing together, it seems to be they're trending in the right way. They're only giving up 3 sacks on the year. And so with that being said, I really do look forward. I'm just, in order to, play this sport at a high level or to coach And to really love it, you got to be a competitive guy. And I love the competition factor in this. Just to be able to go watch our guys, prepare our guys for 60 minutes. It's going to take the full 60, if not more. And it'll take our best effort to get this one done. I'll open it up for questions.
With the offense last week, you mentioned the lack of explosive plays, and it just kind of felt like things were a little step off. What do you think the biggest factor for that was against Southern Illinois?
It's not. It's just football. Yeah. Guys, it's just football. Okay, now the one thing I'll give credit to Southern Illinois, we didn't see probably the most prevalent front that we prepared for. They had shown a bunch of 3-3 stack, going into the game, and I'm not sure we got a rep. We got some Oki, which doesn't change things much, and I thought Fraley, our center, did a good job of giving us a chance, but it wasn't always perfect in our targeting in the run game. And then, we just, at some point, we got to make our minds up that we're going to kick up out of a tackle. I think everybody's playing great, but the ordinary play has to become extraordinary, and I think that's one of those matchups within this game. Okay, who's backs? At the end of the deal, who has the most yak yardage?
Any update on Dylan Hendricks health-wise?
Dylan's not going to be available this week, and it's unfortunate. It breaks my heart. I don't know that we'll get him back, and he's got to do a good job of finding his own perspective on moving forward in life. That's a 6-year guy that's been through a lot. It's a major knee, but if we can get the swelling out of there, he could cowboy up, and he's tough enough to do it, but it's just lifelong decisions now. It was much worse than the report we got coming out of the locker room without the MRI.
That said, a guy like Oshaka Roque, so obviously does he have to elevate his play, or what does that just do to your defense?
Well, I think the group, right? I'm trying to be different for you guys, but there's so much solid foundation here. Next man up, and they got to be ready to go. And I think the nice thing is that we've been rotating 4. And Toby is really coming on. Maybe it's just his time. And Dylan sits somewhere right in here, and I just said, guys, maybe even with a little bit of emotion, we got to move forward. And we're going to need everybody to be 1 or 2% better. And then if you were 5, now you're 4. And I hope you've been practicing the right way, because there is no turning back. And so those guys all have to step up. But, maybe Lashaka says, it's got to be me now. That's consistently output. I think Lashaka's playing at a high level, but I think it's more about Toby. I think it's more about Zen. I think it's more about Menzie, and then is Kelton moving forward? And those other guys, can they make an impact? They're going to need to. And we've been here before, and we can do it. We'll coach them up.
Obviously, the big win against UND, this game against South Dakota State is 1 of 12. You lose this game and accomplish everything that you want to. NDSU's done it in the past. Folks are sick of losing this game. How do you marry those things together?
Well, as a football team, we're in such a good position right now that we're valuing compete, improve, tough daily. You want to play your best football in November to position yourself for a potential playoff run. This is smack dab in the middle, and but the Dakota marker matters. I mean, this is a rivalry game, and they've had the Dakota marker too long. And so you go out there, and what you do is you got to embrace the competition. This is 2 evenly matched teams. Somebody will lose. Okay, it's the team that comes back on the next Monday and practices well again and moves forward and continues to position themselves. We all know the opportunity, the chances, it's somewhere in there. Do you see them again, this, that, or the other thing? We've got to go 1-0 this week, and I want to be the team that runs over and grabs the damn rock. And I want to be the team that, responds and says enough is enough. It's our time. The time is now. And what I mean by that, and I'm talking to the group, my team, our football team, we need to go practice right now today. Like, you have to win today in order to position yourself to win on Saturday.
1 versus 2 in the country for the Dakota marker. What's it like for you seeing this rivalry go to the point where it's at right now? It's always been big, but 1 versus 2 in the country.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I gave more thought to the ESPN2, the fact that it's on national TV, like it always should have been, with the quality of play, the quality of coaching, the fundamentals that are at place. Because there's a lot of TV games right now that are on that aren't this. I really anticipate 2 football teams going out there and playing a really clean, tough, good football game. What does it mean to me? Not much different than it felt like in 06, and not much different than it felt like in 07. It just doesn't. It's a big deal. There's so much crossover year round with recruiting, with the region and the recruiting areas that we recruit. It means a lot. It does. And every game from here on out, we'd like to see as championship level type game.
How do you balance the defensive effort against a team that likes to run the ball as well as South Dakota State does, but then they also have Mark Gronowski back there, a really talented quarterback?
Well, I think right now you better stop the run. I mean, I just, and that doesn't mean like we're 9 guys in the box, but we have to be conscious of what's led to some of the success the last 3 weeks, right? The pass rush has gotten better. This, that, and the other thing we're not talking about anymore. Well, when you stop people on 1st and 2nd down and you're playing in favorable situations like 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8, you know, that's a good deal. I mean, again, Southern Illinois last week throws a bunch of screens. Why? Because our pass rush is pretty good. You know, and they were trying to slow us down in those pass situations. I think it's a hard, long day if they can cultivate balance and do what they want to do when they want to do it.
Coach, how's Cam doing? I know he didn't run the ball too much down in Southern Illinois, but how's he feel going into this
Well,
game?
he wasn't as good as I thought he was, and I'm a little bit disappointed in that. But Cam appeared to be better yesterday than he was last Monday. But we've got to test Cam a little bit more in practice this week. That way, if we have to play both quarterbacks, or we know we can ride Cam and he can do everything that's accessible to his game, and a big part of that is, you know, scrambling and keeping us on the field. I mean, we were still last week on 3rd down 57%, but I think we would have been 64 or 65 if he was completely committed to getting out there and running. But I do appreciate his warrior mentality. And part of the reason, and I'm just going to knock out the next question, the part of the reason we didn't put the next guy in is Cam was managing the run game so well. You know, you get in the middle of a game, and I at one point I just said, I'm good with 17-3. Let's get on the plane and let's get back home. And he was managing the run game pretty well, and he had seen the blitz pitchers and the fronts, and that plays into it too, guys.
When you saw, I guess, on tape, was there something on that he didn't look as healthy as you thought?
He just wasn't just quite as quick in the pocket. He wasn't shaving the grass. He wasn't responding to scrambling on some open lanes. He was hanging in there. He was doing the best he could do the way he felt on that particular day.
Players on both teams who actually said no to the portal. How does that factor into this?
I think it's awesome. You know, Pete Thamel had reached out on Gray, you know, and I said, what's the angle on this? I don't want to be getting all wrapped up in this stuff. And it was in the middle of summer. I was on the way to FCC to play around. And I talked to him, and when he talked about, you know, Mark staying at South Dakota State, and really several of their players have stayed, I think it says a lot about the two programs and the culture, and they must be a tight-knit group in their locker room too. And our guys are, and I think we're doing everything we can to continue to show the guys that we care for them by not throwing pizza parties and popcorn parties, by talking to them and coaching them like they should be coached and pouring into people every day. But I think it says a lot about both programs.
Seems you got like your top 3 running backs have their roles, but just describe, you know, how TK Marshall's evolved in kind of that 3rd down back for you.
Well, he's been a heck of a teammate, number one, right? He's back out there on special teams. I think his goal was to be the number 1 guy going into the, you know, fall camp. He's embraced it, and he's doing a great job. Like I said last week, right? He's on his spots, on time with the checkdowns. He's been really good in pass protection, not perfect, but he's been really good at seeing safety rotation and seeing the guy that he's responsible for. That's a hard role. We've had really good players that have filled that role over the years that are unsung heroes. But I like the fact that TK's making a difference. And then I think BK's coming on a little bit. You know, I think he's him and Marty are embracing the ball. They're embracing the competition of it. And like I said before, I'm okay commenting on this because I talked about it. Like, at some point, we're going to have to make our minds up that not one man is tackling us.
When did you see this series change? Is there a moment you've been part of it? I mean,
Yeah.
They won 8 in a row. The Jacks then won. I know your last year here. When did you see it change?
Well, it meant a lot to me when we got the punt blocked, and I was responsible for the punt. And I thought operation was a little slow, this, that, and the other thing. And then I think we gave up a punt return in that game as well. And the guy I was coaching might have fumbled. So, like, honestly, that's my answer. That day, like, in seeing, you know, that crowd, I think it was it Hobo Days? That day was 07 or 06. Which one did we lose? 07? Down there. I mean, I felt like this is a big deal for me. You know, so 16. I mean, you know, we're in this kind of dogfight. I watched that game the other night, late, and them scoring on the last play of the game. And then obviously what preceded, what followed that was some trash talk on Twitter, not by our coaches, some trash talk on Twitter that our defense took offense to, and then we won that playoff game. And then I just think there was a real heightness, a real intensity that was added to it.
Perhaps I don't use the term influx, but Jalen Crumby seems like a player that almost has to play. Darius Givens is giving very little reason to not play him, and obviously Sam Young has been talked to death. How do you kind of handle that at a position where there is so much communication?
Well, not that we're hoping for a game where somebody throws it 50 times, but then you would see his numbers elevate because he is the nickel. You know, I thought Grant did a good job of saying, okay, let's stay in bear. We're playing zone. We're keeping the ball in front of us. The screen game kind of had us concerned last week. I'm not sure on that. You keep cultivating opportunities on special teams for all these guys, and then you just know that if anybody gets winded or has a situation where they got to come out, we got the next guys ready to go. Crumby's a good player, and I think Givens is getting better and better.
Desire to stay in base, does that have to do with how well Oscar and Enoch are playing?
Oh, for sure. And some of it too is like dictating protections, blitz packages, what kinds of zone coverages are you playing on third down? You know what I mean? Like if it's just truly a curl flat drop or whatever, maybe this guy does that better than these guys, and that just leans you one way or the other.
What's Nick Kubitz's status, and how does that affect your defense if he can't go?
What, you know, Wirtz starts at Mike, and we don't have the flexibility of the Sam thing that we were rocking before. Kubitz, I would say, is questionable today. You know, he's got a clear now, you know, protocol, the testing and all that. I think he's seeing the doctor at 1 o'clock today. I think it affects the defense. It's just another fast guy that's not out there that can really run the ball down and playing at a high level. I think he's playing really well right now.
I know that each game is a separate game and it's all different, but that's one statistical trend that stands out the last 5 games is the turnovers. I think you guys have 9 turnovers over that 5-game stretch and they have 0.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can address that as a coach or what.
I addressed it on December, I don't think I did in my opening meeting with the team, but the very next, January 8th or whatever, 9th, when we came back, I addressed it. I said, you want to know the difference? It's playing good, clean football. And fundamentals are going to start mattering around here, and we talked about that stuff. But that's as early as we've talked about it, and I'm really happy that you brought up that point and pointed that out because, you know, right now we're just rocking along, right? Like we're not throwing interceptions, we're not turning the ball over. Probably somewhere in there in this game, there's going to be a moment, right? You either make the play or you don't, and then there's going to be a turnover or 2 that just swing this thing.
We talked about run defense to death. I wrote about run defense to death. In Valley play, you're giving up 1.8 per carry and 48 yards per game. How do you kind of continue to eat crumbs and not be satisfied with just, I mean, the box score looks ridiculous.
I think just go up there, find a way to piss off Nick Gazer and get him really hot and bothered. You know, no, they're coaching. They've done a really good job of making the main thing, which is fundamentals and effort, like at the forefront. Better than we were in weeks 1, 2, and 3. I don't know, somewhere in there I thought we did a really good job with fall camp, but then all of a sudden here are some games, right? And then you're game planning, then you're scheming things up. We lost our way maybe just a little bit, but coming back and recentering ourselves on what we think is the important stuff is really allowed for some of the success. Now, the challenge in this one, I'm just telling you, we could see more run game in the first series than we saw schematically in the last 2 of the last 3. I mean, they've got pin and pulls, counters, powers, zone, dual, outside zone, and they do a pretty good job with all of it. We got to find out which direction they want to take this game plan and then, you know, not be reactionary, but try to dictate the terms, you know, as early as possible on 1st and 2nd down.
Coach, with the new traditions you brought, like the walk and, you know, the pyros and running out into the field, How special is it that this is going to be a prime time and the fans are going to be all part of that?
I think it's still, we're the number one facility and environment in the FCS level. And we would be right up there with most FBS programs, you know, P5s, or I don't care about the definitions, all right? But our environment is phenomenal. So every time that Christian Dudzik able to make a highlight video off of this and we can show recruits and then it's on national TV and people can see the seats are filled and we're not having to black out the top row. It's a big deal. And it's our number one thing. It's probably the number one reason why I always want our fans and our community to show up. Outside of impacting the game, it's to make a difference in recruiting. Hey guys, look, it matters here. I've always wanted to coach somewhere where it matters. You guys, it matters here. The people care. You're going to get to play in a fun environment each and every week. It's a big deal.
Speaking of the run game, what do you think it's going to take for Marty and Brika and TK, like you kind of alluded to get the ground game established?
Well, we've been establishing the ground game. We need to score the ball. Somebody's got to make some magic happen. One of my favorite things, we could evaluate 1,000 running backs a year in recruiting. One of my favorite things is finding all their 4 and 5 yard runs. Okay, because when it's not blocked right, can they make yards? Okay, and then like over here, all these high school kids have all these non-compete plays. 60, 70, 80-yard touchdowns where they don't get touched. Those are non-evaluators. Okay, so how much magic does a guy have? How much creativity does a guy have to win one-on-ones?
Tim, how familiar, does the familiarity on the recruiting road help in a game like this? You recruit a bunch of their guys. They've also recruited a bunch of your team. Does that help in preparation for a game like this?
Probably with the skill kids. You know, some you get to know them, you know, the speed, you know, high school track times. But not like with anybody, in my opinion, that plays on the line of scrimmage. Both programs do such a good job with the development piece. You kind of just know the DNA of the family and the people. I don't know, you know, don't give that much thought when it comes to game planning. Maybe that shows up once or twice a year. Like, hey, that guy was this or that. We can take advantage of it, or, hey, that's concerning.
How constant is it on the recruiting road? You see, like, you're here and SDSU's there the next day or vice versa.
It's what it's kind of boiling down to on almost every kid. You know, maybe if somebody gets filled up on one position or the other, you know, you don't feel them or something. But, yeah, they're doing a good job in recruiting, and I know we have done a good job in recruiting, and my hopes is that it'll even be better moving forward.
Jack Lewinsky got some run in the second half last week. Do you see him having to contribute again this week, or just kind of describe the role he may play?
Well, just the role is he's in a backup role right now. We're not committed to rotating 6 and 7. And so Jack's got to be ready up. I thought he was physical. I thought he was aggressive. I thought he was fast to assignment. He needs to be a little more detailed, you know, but he's closing the gap. He's practicing well. I think it'll be really good. We got Bo back this week. It just, my mind right now is going more to like, we have more flexibility if we have a backup tackle, you know, where Jack would have to play both guard spots or whatever.
What's it been like for you seeing from a distance South Dakota State put this many wins in this marker series together?
Kind of interesting. I won't get into it too much, but one of my assistant coaches as the old coordinator at Wyoming, Shannon Moore, you know, the day I left NDSU the first time, Shannon called and wanted to dive in on some special team things. Well, at that point, you know, you're leaving a school, you don't give much thought to coming back or whatever. And we had shared some things, and that was my first chance to really be educated on their program and their process, and how good Coach Stegemeyer was, and how much the assistant coach liked, you know, how much the assistant coaches liked him, just like Jimmy. So over the last year, 2 years, 3 years with Shannon up at Wyoming, it's just the insight, right? Like, it's just a respect level. I mean, that's all. That's all it is.
Bryce Lance is leading the conference in receptions and tied for the lead in touchdown catches. Just hasn't been a system that is, you know, Christian Watson, you go names on names on names of guys that have been really good wide receivers, but the box score just doesn't look like that. How special is it to have a player able to do that when, you know, coming into the season probably wasn't your number one option, at least on paper?
Really happy for his progression in this program. Really happy that he doesn't have a drop yet, does he? Maybe a vertical ball or something. Really happy with, his work habits. Bryce last week hit 99% of his max velocity like 20 times. And so he's earned this. He's practicing, and he practices hard, just like a lot of our guys. I hope systematically this is not a question of, hey, this is the first time. We're up there, right? We want to be a balanced outfit that highlights the receiver group. We have done that. Cam obviously is a big part of that, but moving forward, I see us highlighting the receivers, quite a bit. I want the recruits out there to know that, the prospects in 26, that we're moving this thing forward, and we want to be a dynamic pro-style offense, and that includes some drop-back pass game.
When he does get up a little gimpy, is that still like the fluid
I don't
stuff?
know. He's got something going on behind his knee that just gets a little fatigued. Nothing structurally. That's maybe the one thing he could do a little better job of, is being stronger and being tougher in situations where there's two even tacklers, splitting them. And then great receivers all understand when the journey's over. Okay, if it's corralled, it's time to get what you can get and go down. I want all of our guys to be tough, but like the journey sometimes is over, and it's time to make the right call. That's a big, tall guy that's out there getting hit, and he's physical and tough. He plays on special teams. Bryce has been really good. I'm not surprised. All right, guys, thank you. Enjoy the game.